From the creeks to redemption, deep in the mangroves of Bayelsa, where the oil-rich waters stretched endlessly into the horizon, was the hometown of a boy named Timi. His father, Ibipada, was a fisherman, and his mother, Ojibowe, traded smoked fish at the local market. Life in the village was simple but tough, especially when oil spills began to poison their waters, killing the fish and leaving families with nothing. From a young age, Timi dreamed of escaping poverty. He wasn't afraid of hard work, but he also saw that hard work alone was no longer enough, or so he thought. According to him, the oil companies got richer while his people suffered. He watched his father struggle, and when his younger sister fell sick, there was no money for proper treatment. The anger in his heart burned like fire. By the time Timi was 17, the streets had already taught him a harsh lesson. Survival was for the strong. He started moving with the wrong crowd, older boys who whispered about quick money in the creeks. Before long, he was drawn into oil bunkering, siphoning crude oil from pipelines and selling it to illegal refineries. It was dangerous, but the money flowed faster than he had ever seen. Rising through the ranks in the creeks, what started as a means to survive quickly became a way of life. Timi was fearless, a natural leader. He knew the waterways like the back of his hand, could navigate through the thickest mangroves without leaving a trace. His name became a legend among the militants, men who had taken up arms against the government, demanding a share of the wealth flowing beneath their feet. He fought, he conquered, and soon he commanded his own battalion of fighters. The creeks belonged to him. Even the oil companies feared his name, and the government labeled him a rebel warlord. But in his heart, Timi knew one thing. This wasn't the life he had dreamed of. This wasn't freedom. Crossroads, war, or peace. Then came the government's amnesty program, a chance for militants to lay down their arms in exchange for peace, rehabilitation, and legitimate opportunities. Many of his men scoffed at it. Some called it a trap. But Timi, he saw a way out. For the first time in years, he thought about the future. Not just his, but his people's. What had all the fighting achieved? The oil companies were still there. The land was still damaged. The only difference was that his hands were stained with things he could never erase. And so, after months of deep reflection, Timi made his decision. He called his men together and told them, "We've fought enough, we've bled enough, now it's time to build." From warlord to guardian, Timi and his men accepted the amnesty, turning in their weapons in exchange for new beginnings. But peace didn't mean weakness. The government, recognizing his deep knowledge of the waterways, recruited him and his former fighters to protect the very pipelines they once attacked. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had spent years fighting the government, and now he was its most trusted ally in the creeks. But for the first time in his life, he had power without fear. He was building, not destroying. A new legacy. Years passed, and Timi became a respected man in Bayelsa. The people who once feared him now sought his wisdom. He used his government connections to bring development to his village, ensuring that his people no longer had to rely on crime to survive. He married Abir, the love of his life, and together they had two wonderful children, Prey and Tari, both of whom went on to university. Sometimes as he sat by the water, watching the sun set over the delta, he thought about the boy he once was, the angry dreamer who had nearly lost his way. But in the end, he had found a path. Not through war, but through redemption.